Another random thing I do is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or SETI. And you may be familiar with the movie Contact, which sort of popularized that. It turns out there are real people who go out and search for extraterrestrials in a very scientific way. In fact, almost everybody in the movie is based on a real character, a real person. So the Jodie Foster character here is actually this woman, Jill Tarter. And Jill has dedicated her life to this. A lot of people risk their lives in a brief act of heroism, which is kind of cool. But Jill has what I call slow heroism. She's risking her professional life on something that her own calculations show may not work for 1,000 years, or may not ever. So I like to support people that are risking their lives. After the movie came out, of course, there's a lot of interest in SETI. My kids saw the movie, and afterwards they came to me and they said, "So Dad, so that character, that's Jill, right?" I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely. And that other person, that's so," and I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you know that creepy rich guy in the movie? Is that you?" I said, "Well, it's just a movie, come on." So the SETI Institute, with a little bit of help from me and a lot of help from Paul Allen and a variety of other people, is building a dedicated radio telescope in Hat Creek, California, so they can do this SETI work. I travel a lot and I change cell phones a lot, and the one person who always gets updated on all my cell phones and pages and everything else is Jill, because I really don't want to miss the call. I mean, can you imagine? E.T.'s phoning home and I'm not like there? It'd be horrible. So I do a lot of work on dinosaurs. I'm known to TEDsters as the guy that has sex with dinosaurs, and I resemble that remark. I'm going to talk about a different aspect of dinosaurs, which is the finding of them. Now, to find dinosaurs, you hike around in horrible conditions looking for a dinosaur. It sounds really dumb, but that's what it is. It's horrible conditions because wherever you have nice weather, plants grow. And you don't get any erosion, you don't see any dinosaurs. So you always find dinosaurs in deserts or badlands, areas that have very little plant growth and have flash floods in the spring. Skiers pray for snow, paleontologists pray for erosion. So you hike around, and this is after you dig them up, they look like this. You hike around, you see something like this. Now this is something I found, so look at it very closely here. You've got this bentonite clay, which is sort of swells up and expands, and there's some stuff poking out. So you look at that, and you look up close, and you say, well, gee, that's kind of interesting. What are all of these pieces? Well, if you look closely, you can recognize actually from the shape that these are skull fragments. And then when you look at this, you say that's a tooth. It's a big tooth. It's about the size of a banana, and it has a big serration on the edge. This is what Tyrannosaurus rex looks like in the ground. And this is what it's like to find a Tyrannosaurus rex, which I was lucky enough to do a few years ago. Now, this is what Tyrannosaurus rex looks like in my living room. Not the same one, actually. This is a cast which I had bought, and then after buying the cast, I find my own, and I don't have room for two. So the thing that's wonderful for me about finding dinosaurs is that it is both an intellectual thing, because you're trying to reconstruct the environment of millions of years ago. It's something that can inform all sorts of science in unexpected ways. The study of dinosaurs led to the realization that there's a problem with asteroid impact, for example. The study of dinosaurs may literally one day save the planet. Study of the ancient climate is very important. In fact, the Mesozoic, when dinosaurs lived, had much higher CO2 than today, was much warmer than today, and is one of the interesting proof points for the effects of CO2 on climate. But besides being intellectually and scientifically interesting, it's also very different than the other things I do, because you get to hike around in the Badlands. This is actually what most dinosaur research looks like. This is one of my papers. A pigostyle from a non-avian theropod. It's not as gripping as dinosaur sex, so we're not going to go into it further. Now, I'm also really big on photography. I travel all over the world taking pictures. Some of them good, most of them not. These days, bits are cheap. Unfortunately, that means you got to spend more time sorting through them. Here's a picture I took in the Falkland Islands. of king penguins on a beach. Here's a picture I took in Alaska a few years ago of orcas. I'd gone up to photograph orcas, and we had looked for a week, and we hadn't seen a damn orca. The last day, the sun comes out, the orcas come, they're right by the boat, it's fantastic. And I get lots of pictures like this. Then, a little bit later, I start getting some pictures like this. Now, to a human audience, I need to explain that if Penthouse magazine had a marine mammal edition, this would be the centerfold. It's true. So there's more and more activity near the boat, and all of a sudden somebody shouts, "What's that in the water?" I said, "Well, I think that's what you call a free willy." There's a variety of things you can learn from watching whales have sex. The first thing you learn is the overwhelming importance of hands. They don't have them. I think Paul Simon is in the audience, and he may not realize it, but he wrote a song all about whale sex. Slip sliding away? That's kind of what it's like. The other interesting thing that I learned about whale sex, they curl their toes too. So, where do you go putting all of these disparate pieces together? You know, there's a tremendous amount of wisdom in finding a great thing, passion in life, and focusing all your energy on it, and I've never been able to do that. I just, because yes, I'll focus passion on something, but then there'll be something else, and then there's something else again, and for a long time I fought this, and I thought, well, gee, I really ought to buckle down. And when I was at Microsoft, that was so engrossing, and the whole industry was expanding so much that it did tend to crowd out most of the other things in my life. But ultimately, I decided that what I really ought to do is not fight being who I am, but embrace it. And say, yeah, this whole talk has been a mile wide and an inch deep, but that's really what works for me. And regardless of whether it's nuclear reactors or metamaterials or whale sex, the common or lowest common denominator is me. That's it. Thank you.